Welcome to Learn, Chat, Share, the podcast where knowledge meets conversation. Hosted by Daniel Wathen.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, welcome to Learn, Chat, Share. Ashleigh and I have been chatting for a couple minutes, catching up because we haven't seen each other in a while. She was on vacation in lovely Mexico.
It
And
was lovely. The people continue to be so kind and generous, and I was a little nervous with the state of the world right now and international relations, and I can't say enough great things.
yeah. Well, we're leaving in a couple weeks in May, mid-May as well, to do sort of Western Mediterranean. So that should be fun. Five five countries in 7 days, but
We did it on the Disney cruise,
oh yeah.
and it was a lot of fun.
Oh,
It was a good way to experience Western Mediterranean with kids.
huh. I hear those Disney cruises are really structured for the adults.
There are a lot of adults on those Disney cruises
Yeah.
that are there without children, and it is completely mind-boggling.
Really? Huh.
There was this other family that was there, divorced mom, two teenage children, 17 and 15, if I remember correctly. Her mother was there on the cruise with her too. It was her, I'm not kidding, 31st Disney cruise. It's like all that they do. I was like, well, how do they make their money? But they had done the transatlantic. So they had taken the same ship that we were on in the Mediterranean. They did the transatlantic crossing. Then they did the cruise that we did, which departed from Rome. And then they were flying to some other part of Europe to meet a different Disney cruise ship and do another one.
Wow.
So there are absolutely Disney fan people out there. But really, truly, it shocked me, the people there without kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the kids don't want you, you know. They're like,
But I said to the 15 and
whatever.
the 17-year-old, randomly, the reason why I had struck up a few conversations with this mom was because we were at this little Italian restaurant in Rome before, a night or two before boarding the ship. And I said, "Oh, we're here, we're meeting friends on the ship and da da da." And she said, "Oh my gosh, we just did the, Atlantic crossing and we're boarding, as well." Um, so, and then seeing them again, a few more times. Cruise ships always baffle me. How they have that many people, but yet you still feel not overcrowded. It blows my mind where they put everyone. So, and seeing these kids, I said to them, I was like, do you guys enjoy this? And they were like, "Oh my gosh, absolutely."
Well, they've been
Okay.
indoctrinated.
Yeah.
31 trips. Wow. Wild. Yeah, so yes, Ashley and I are catching up. We've gotten ourselves all riled up on family talk, so this should be a fun little wild ride. And
Yeah,
here's
family talk and also how we ground ourselves. I want to
yes.
give a, shout out to the movie called, oh my gosh, I just pulled it up. The Earthing movie.
The Earthing movie. Yes, so for everyone, uh, Ashley had a reverse emotional outburst. Typically, when you walk along a beach and then you're barefoot and there's waves and etc., you calm down. But I was telling her that because she a lot of emotions got dragged up and
Yeah, and maybe it was for the positive.
she had
To
a
give,
conversation with her kids that needed to happen. So I was like, hey, I think the grounding did work. It
yes, I
was
love that. Thank you. Because I was saying it didn't work, instead of my nervous system calming down.
no, it all came.
Maybe it did. It sure found the vocabulary to use with my children.
Yeah, today's word of the day, I'll flash it. Entitlement. Raising
Yes,
kids,
and as I
raising
just
kids
told
these days
Daniel,
is easy.
well, I love this. We were at this, lovely resort in Mexico with the most kind and generous staff, beautiful location, this beach that you could walk on for long, long stretches. And my children, not so much my tween, but definitely my teen was giving off how do you serve me vibes, to say the least. And I came in after this lovely walk on the beach that I had invited them to and encouraged them to join me on, and neither took the invitation. And came back and just said, do you see where you are? You're so incredibly entitled. You can't even give me 15 minutes of your time before our friends wake up and we all go to this, beautiful breakfast and all the things. So, in my, grounded mom rage, get out to both of them of the hotel room. Where are they going to go? Well, we're at an all-inclusive and they had plenty of friends and parents
Yeah.
that they love also around them, but get out, right?
Go
So,
breathe the air outside of this room.
exactly. So, one of the dads said to me later that day, um, that his son had just had breakfast with my son, and they're 11 and they've all been friends since, baby school, pre-K, pre-K. And he came back and he said, Parker's mom called him and his sister entitled. What does that mean? And he said, we just had a laugh about it. And he said, well, James, I need a little bit more context, sort of, very, you know, smart about the way he was going about it and asking questions back to his son, which his son obviously was, clueless. But, you know, it's funny the things that they pick up on, right? So Parker walked away with the message that mom was calling us entitled when mom really just wanted to spend time with them.
Yeah. They weren't they weren't getting the message for sure.
Yeah. And
Um,
then, they did get the message when her phone and his iPad went in the safe.
yeah,
That didn't need interpretation.
yeah. Figure out this four-digit code, kids.
Exactly.
Love it. I love it. I think this is all sort of rolling into so today's conversation. Let's bring it back home a bit. Uh, both of us have looked at, read,
Talked extensively with
talked
friends and
extensively
family.
about the new Mel Robbins Let Them. Is it Principle? I think it's Principle,
Yeah.
or
And even
Method.
I was looking at Tinks, if you know Tinks, her stories last night, and someone asked her, what she thinks about the book and the concept, and she said it's words to live by, and it's changed her life. And she had actually done her podcast with Mel, um, and how important it is to recognize your own value. I mean, we can get into this, but
Yes,
I've been
I would.
talking to Daniel and others about sort of struggling. I've been struggling with the concept of the book because I understand where everyone is coming from. I first and foremost know that you have to see your own light before you can see it and celebrate it in others. Respect for yourself is the key to all healthy relationships. But that said, as a divorced mom, even the let them concept for teens, let her have the scowl on her face, let her opt out of the beautiful morning beach walk. That's hard for me because I'm not with my children physically all of the time. I tell them every, they know that I am not a 50% mom, and I do everything that I can to make sure that I see them sports endeavors and school opportunities that I can on my non-mommy time. My ex and I do week on, week off. That said, it's hard for me to practice let them or let her, my teen, have the scowl on her face, presumably show up entitled or unappreciative or just not in a way that I'm trying to model. It's really hard for me because my physical time with her is limited and it's
Yeah.
not, you're gonna sit here, your parents aren't going anywhere. Well, I'm not going anywhere period, but I do sort of, I don't get to sleep in the same house with them all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the concepts that she hits home a lot, and that's the practice part of this is sure letting them have the scowl on their face, but then let me reinforce my motherhood, reinforce the rules or respect that require in this house. Like they
Yep.
can feel whatever they want, but they should act a specific way, to make sure that the home is. So it's the sort of that you're not like giving up control or power necessarily. You are also reinforcing, Ashleigh and I are close, so we talk about parenting and what have you. And one of the things I had to sort of reinforce today was Ashleigh's got the long game, and one of her children may be only thinking in the short part of that, right? And so
It's a Snapchat
remaining
culture.
remaining solid in your belief system is actually going to be more powerful for the pre-adult than getting sort of mixed up or dragged down with all the emotional part of it. Because right in the short term, it's going to be there's a lot of roller coaster emotions and dealing with. And you know what? That instantaneous reaction that you have, Ashleigh, that's mine too. Like I feel myself doing things sometimes that I'm like, who, like, if there was ever like another person watching me, I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? You
No,
know?
and that's
And
exactly it, right? We are trying to
you get more
model.
agitated doing it too because you're
Right.
like, but then you have to like the parenting comes swift and furious and you know what? Sometimes you're never, I mean, I don't feel like I'm at my best at the moment, and then it's sort of like what happens after is very important,
That's
like
exactly right.
the sort of explaining and discussion and the reason why and what have you. But
Yeah, and that's what I tell them. I want to raise resilient humans that care about people and the environment around them. I struggle with that when I feel this sense of entitlement. Um, but I think to your point, hopefully the long game will be realized.
yeah, the where it gets very interesting for me, and I would love to talk to Mel Robbins about this. This is me unabashedly saying, I don't know what kind of podcast we would have. I would just like to talk with her, for long stretches of time. I just feel like we'd be able to riff really well.
Yep.
But and there is a supplement from the book for all those that are listening about how to do this with children and and I just finished the book recently, so I'm sort of more this is more for adult conversation, but there is sort of work around that. But like respect is a hard one. You cannot let them disrespect.
I can't
And
agree more. And you and I were
and
raised that way.
Yeah, and that's what we were sort of reminiscing that some of the facial and some of the like, things that we all let our kids get away with these days was not allowed at all.
No,
Like we would never do some of this stuff. And this is what I'm conveying on Oliver right now is like, I use the word respect. And I found that he really understands what disrespecting means and how bad that is. So we sort of talk about when he flies off the handle, that word gets used very quickly, and it really kind of upsets him a bit. But I'm okay with that level of upset because that just means, hey, something's getting through.
let him.
I mean, I'm like, look, you're not going to do that in this house, right?
Yep.
And we have both of
Or
us have
your other
rambunctious
dad's house
boys,
either.
right. And so luckily for me, we have a great co-parenting where if it's that kind of conversation, then it's a quick call. And we made that deal a long time ago. We give enough of information, hey, I have Oliver on the line, then we stop everything and we do it as a joint force and support each other that way, even if we don't we'll put a pin in it and discuss it without him on the phone a little later, like what is the background here. But not a lot of co-parenting scenarios have that,
Mine included is unfortunately not like
right?
that.
And like a lot, like there's a lot of not amicable um environments out there for the kids. And you almost have to like when you're thinking logically, you're like, okay, I get why the kid is doing this, right? Um, but the kid also has to be able to operate as an adult. And with that
And have some
entitlement,
consistency
it's
for their
gonna,
own sake.
yeah, like break them down now. Like I think the let them is like let them feel like, like
Mad, angry at us.
yeah,
Yeah,
let them feel it, and then let me explain to them how, operating like that isn't really going to serve them well in the future. Like I'd rather deal with a disappointed 8-year-old Oliver versus the 23-year-old that gets smacked down by sort of an adult life situation.
absolutely.
Like
And
it'll be
that's what I mean about resilience. Like I want to raise resilient humans, and it
right.
starts now.
Yeah, I think I love I got to listen to the book and I think you get a when the actual author
I agree.
reads it you get more out of it, and I just love the sharing that Mel Robbins does about how like there's no perfection here. Like
It's a
you think new theory, I'm gonna adopt it.
Oh,
It's gonna be super easy, and I think we're all prone with our, I'm like I have 51-year-old habits. Like there's no way I'm gonna overcome this very quickly or learn to handle scenarios differently. But it's tough.
I love she did her I don't know if it was her first book, but I'm looking it up right now. Um
The five,
the 5 second rule.
yeah.
Um so the moment you have an instinct to act, you must 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and physically move or your brain will stop. And I see that with my teen with the TikTok in front of her, right?
Hmm.
It's like this gamified way of living life, but you still need to take action and be present for the people around you.
Huberman, is it Huberman? Just recently, I listened to a podcast. I'm not sure exactly. They had it was two neurobiologists, so it's like okay, it was just like Geek Central. Basically, what was it? After 2 or 3 minutes on social media, your brain goes into a numb state where you don't feel anything. So for a kid, could you imagine they can burn 3 minutes on Snapchat or whatever, like very quickly. So the human being you're even talking to isn't really there.
Yeah, you're one. I
It's
mean,
a wild.
absolutely. Try sitting at a lunch with friends and they have their phone in front of them and
Yeah, yeah.
try
Like
to get them back. Yeah.
yeah. So it's very interesting to me that we're gonna have to create a lot of constraint around technology. Um,
It's hard to do, I it's so it's how kids communicate today, fortunately or unfortunately. Um, but I don't like I think my adult brain can kind of filter out, oh my gosh, people are posting only the good stuff, right? Mostly myself included too, because it's what you want to go back and
yeah.
remember, right?
This is the image
Yes,
of,
but when, I have a 14-year-old daughter that sees such a whitewashed version of life on social media, it is concerning to me because that's not real life. People have bills to pay and dog poop to clean up behind the
well,
scenes
yeah.
that you don't see.
Well, especially, I mean, I wonder, and I don't even think this is like um conscious, right? But like if they're filtered Snapchat or whatever, they're
Oh,
all filtered. And then they
yes,
go to school on the Monday and they see them in real life, right? And they're like, whoa, what happened to that person?
it's true.
It's like, oh well, how did
It's looking rough.
how does she gain 10 pounds over the course of overnight or since this morning? It's I all that whitewash. I like that you say that is because, you know, uh, there's never, and you also believe it yourself. Sometimes you're like, oh, sometimes I'll see a picture and I go, I'll remember what was really happening that day, and I'll think, huh, we look
Right.
so happy, but the day may have a whole nother memory, right?
Absolutely. And maybe that day it took you a lot of courage to get out of bed in the morning, but you did somehow capture a smiling moment. You weren't detached, you put in the work. And
Yeah,
that's what I think I want to model. I know I want to model for my own children. Um, but that dopamine rush, that little fix you get when someone likes a post you have,
yeah,
or you looking pretty on a beach and you go back to check for more. Unfortunately, it's not connection. That really is detachment.
yeah. Yeah,
But yes,
I
I
wonder
mean,
what, yeah, I wonder what Mel, because she doesn't cover this at all in the book, but there's like how we look at reality is also a part of this, right? So I think
Mhm.
like how we can apply, I don't know if this is not very structured thought, so bear with me, but um, if we know something's fake, but we still end up getting agitated by it, how can we employ that let them, let me? You know,
Well, I
like
think something
there's
that
the
she,
for ourselves, right? But then,
right.
right, and like figure that out. But then, how do you convey it to a kid that thinks that all of this stuff is reality, right?
And that's exactly what my point was going to be. It's control versus the illusion of control.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Mel talks about, I think, a little bit. You're here to lead your life with clarity, not someone else's.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or because they have X, I need it too. But do you really want it?
And
You
I
know,
even
like
see
the
that about my
amount of like,
daughter.
oh, like I mean, Oliver, we're fielding this right now with Oliver, right? We're like, you're not getting a phone, right? We
Yes.
told him at 10 years old, you will have a flip phone. That flip phone will have access to call or text us. That's all it's going to be. He goes, I don't want that. I'm gonna get bullied. Like immediate response, right? I'm telling you, when he's
Because
10
he has the answers
when
at
when
8.
he's when he's 10 years old, he's gonna want that flip phone for
Of
sure.
course he is.
It'll be something. But he's 8 now, almost 9, so he's like trying to like, everything. He needs a PS5 or whatever because he's the only one in his class that doesn't play Fortnite and he's being bullied for it. Like these he like drops these things and we're like, okay, so what was said exactly? I like go deep with him. Like, what was said exactly? Well, they said that. I go, well, that's not really bullying.
It's like James to his
I
dad.
said, did you
What does
fear?
entitled
I said,
mean?
did you fear for your life? No. I go, then you're not getting bullied right now. Like, don't talk to me about bullying. I've been bullied. Like, I know what bullying is. So I think they're even like trying to use it. Like, it's even a buzzword, right? Like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
well, that's just not what you're going to get. Or we're also using it as a motivator. I'm like, I'll consider it if you get straight A's.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Right? Or what have you. And then that's just a little too hard in his book, right? Like why would I earn it?
That's the other thing. And there is, I think, in you and I talking about the way we were raised, I think we did have to earn it a little bit more. And there is, times are very different. And not that our parents didn't want to give us absolutely everything. Of course they did. Um, I think our parents were maybe just a little bit less attuned to or maybe they didn't
I
care. I don't know about
honestly
what
I
everybody
just
else was
I
doing.
think I think everything about it was completely different. I don't even think we can judge it. I think we were just raised the way we were raised,
Hmm?
right? I think that like some people put some pejorative vibe on it. Some people put like sort of like an entitled slant. Like I was raised this way back in the day. That makes me better. We were raised, like we were raised better, right? Like I don't know if we were raised better or not. I can tell you we were just raised differently, right?
Very differently. And
And I
you know,
think the
I
world
don't
was just
regret.
different. Everything about it was just different. Like I don't like you can't be raised the same way, like
Yeah,
I,
times are very different. And I've tried to keep up with that with my own parenting style, which is also, my parents were married until the day my dad passed away 4 years ago.
yeah,
I was incredibly blessed to see them as role models in a relationship, in an entrepreneurial setting, just as leaders and community members. But I can still be a leader and a good community member even if I don't have a partner.
yeah,
And I think to your point, no judgment, just times were really different. And I also think um adults maybe had or we're talking, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut in the 80s and 90s, right? I think um parents had a little bit more of an authority, whether it was given to them or not, to say respect your mom or respect your dad. And that's just something I would never, I was telling you this about, a friend's child that doesn't have Snapchat and doesn't have sort of all the apps on her phone. I would never say to her mother, maybe you should consider it because, the kids say she's missing out socially. I let them parent however they
yeah,
want.
yeah.
Um, but times were just different. And I think unfortunately I miss a little bit of that, what the community is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also think that what's very interesting, we have a group of parents that have all pretty much banded together currently because we all have kids in the same age group. We're all basically saying the same thing to our core group of friends. But the problem is they're not they have a wide net of
Right.
friendships. So I don't know. I don't know. Um,
I mean, I love the message of the book. My sort of takeaway was control your own chaos, you know,
well, to the extent that you can.
to the extent that you can, but
Um,
100%, but that you're the only person that you can truly
mhm.
be responsible for. And um, let your front cortexal lobe process a little bit. They say if you have a big feeling, feel the feeling, but take a pause. Take a 1 minute pause. And if
Yeah.
it's a really big feeling, take a 30-minute pause and let your brain process it. Um, and I give Mel Robbins a lot of respect because I think in different ways with this book and some of her others, she's really trying to support the human experiment, which is be the best person you can be and don't worry about others. It's not your story.
Yeah, and boiling it down in a much more approachable sort of way. Um, yeah, I think it was some good stuff. And I also came out of it with hey, there's no perfection.
Right.
Like being okay with the fact that I'm not going to handle things in the most perfect way. And I think what's interesting is that, we feel like we should, or we have like at 51, I should be able to do things in this way. Um, in sort of in a logical format or in the sort of, you almost create conflict with yourself. Like, well, I know logically it should be done X, Y, Z, right? But
I'm reclaiming my peace,
I
damn
feel like
it.
it should be like over here.
Yes.
So it's like the bridging of the rational and irrational.
Yes.
Like I like that. Like she is like, you're gonna feel irrational, right?
Yep.
And like be okay with it, but then put the rational in play, right? Like,
Right.
feel it, but go
And
the
then it's a practice, right?
because we always get kind of drawn into like, well, you shouldn't feel that way, or like there's no judgment, like you shouldn't feel that way, blah blah blah, or like not even owning up. I've become a bit more um aware of when I am feeling irrationally. I'll tell someone like, this is my irrational response to this because this like
Yeah.
boiling up, like you walking on a beach, getting more pissed. Why is it coming up, right?
Did you have a satellite image of me? That's exactly what it was. I'm like, this beach walk isn't
Well, and then
making
like we feed ourselves because you know it's happening, and you're like it's like a vicious circle, right? It's like getting worse because why am I getting so pissed off? You know,
Yeah.
so the beast gets fed. I don't know, but then I just like the like feel it, then pivot and breathe it down, or take the 5 4 3 2 1, or
Well,
what have you. And
take action for
that's the
yourself.
practice part of this is it's the constant practice because we're big emotional beings, and you
You and
know
I both, especially.
one of the core point I'll say number one point that was made in that book, which is super simple, that it has nothing to do with structure, is like we are all 8-year-olds. Our eight
We
like
want immediate gratification.
but like our like and what's great about that is I currently have an 8-year-old, so that it's just like it hit home immediately because there's some stuff that he does and I'm like, you know, if I wasn't an adult, I'd react that same
Right.
way,
But
right?
isn't that's a blessing too, so that you don't have to be passive about it.
No, yeah, and yeah, exactly. So
Well, I think I unfortunately am someone that, it's the communications and PR person in me. I do care about how I show up, which is a blessing and a curse, right? So I need to celebrate the fact that I'm going to bring the best energy that I can to a certain situation. And if someone resents it or doesn't like it,
let them,
thanks, no. I have to let them.
yeah. I someone said something to me, a comment that was made by someone that I completely disagree with, but I had to sit and go, you know what? They have no idea.
Right.
Right. So I'm like, okay, well, you're not going to make yeah, I think we want everyone to like us or, respect us. And you never know what the context of the conversation was, right? And they may respect me or whoever, right? And they may like you, but they said this one thing that gets shared, right? Sort of way out of context. I think there's a lot of that, right? I mean, people sometimes are very surprised how much I will give to them because they think that I think differently of them when you were so hard on me during this one scenario. I go, you have to understand, this is like work environment.
Yeah.
I would never give the energy to you
If I
if
didn't
I
care.
didn't believe in you and care about you. So
100%.
that's just how I am. So if you're getting that from me, you're getting it because of this. And like something will click with them, around it, right? And so
Right.
I think those that are hard on you, sometimes you just have to ask, why are you, you know?
Right. And sometimes, I was thinking this as I was watching the end of White Lotus and the ladies around the dinner table. Unfortunately or fortunately, sometimes the people that know you the longest can be a mirror. And oftentimes you want to be a mirror for the good. But sometimes when you care, you're a mirror for the not so good too. And it's an opportunity to change it in yourself, but it's something if you really care about someone, if you're trying to raise children,
Yeah.
um, to be good, resilient, kind adults, it's putting in the work.
hmm The mind,
So
the
peace
mind
over
blowing thing to me
control.
is the modeling part of this, right?
Yes,
So,
100%.
so like I think and I'm dangerous about this, meaning I do this. Sometimes we talk at our kids because we want them to hear all these things because it's like we're verbalizing what we want them
And
to
it's like,
see or
look how
how
much I've
they
learned in my
like
life.
no, well just like more of like I tell Oliver I'm just gonna give you all the secrets up front. You can hear
You're
it or not
welcome.
hear. Like just here. This is the secret, right? I'm just trying to train him. Like I'm not trying to like run your life. I just want you to know like this is the sort of why behind things. But if we want to I don't know, something that stuck with me is the modeling part of this is if you want your kids to be resilient, then you need to act resilient,
Yep.
right? Or be resilient. And I don't think we look necessarily at ourselves to sort of be the first line because we want everything for our kids.
Right. I also think, I mean, to sort of take it beyond, the four walls of our homes, she talked, the book opens with, if someone doesn't, if someone's not inviting you to something, let them, right? Um, I've over the years, I think younger me was so tuned into what everybody else was doing, and if I was included and the level at which my participation was requested or included. Um, and now I joke, I have JOMO, I have joy of missing out, but that came with a lot of years of self-reflection and honestly a lot of years of putting a lot of value on situations that I thought would be important that I was invited to or important to show up to and seeing that maybe the people there weren't being so kind about others, or maybe something was happening that didn't align with my own value system there. And that's not to say, don't go outside. It's just, you know, don't build things up in your head so much.
Yeah, yeah. If you're not included, you're immediately excluded, when a lot of
Yeah.
times it has nothing to do with you anyway.
Well, I have to
Most
compliment,
times.
I was talking to a good friend of mine from college this morning, and he was saying that his wife is not a big reader and she has not been able to put this book down. She's a human resources leader and she's just very excited about it, I think, in many different aspects of her life. Um, Through him, she is the step parent of a 19-year-old and a 15-year-old. So I think that, the principles for her may be especially important and resonate within her own life. But that said, everywhere I go, people are talking about this book right now. So I think that that's a really good thing that maybe if people can value themselves a little bit more and their own growth and their own
Yeah.
values and their own purpose, um, cheers to Mel.
Yeah, I think she has a great way of describing giving up some of the power, like that's the left let them part, but
Yep.
maintaining your own personal agency, you know.
Yeah, and realizing that ego is a player, right?
Hmm.
So, I mean, so much of that ego is where did I go wrong? Just tell me what to do, tell me what to change. Well,
Do you really need to
it's
change
not
anything? Yeah.
yeah, it's not always about you.
Hmm. A lot of times, yeah, I good exercises and just like constant, you know, I don't know. I was left with it also left me like more positive,
Yeah,
right? Maybe because she's also a fun reader.
yeah. Well, no, I went into it and I think I said this to you. I wanted to take the contrarian view to this. Well, I am a divorced mom. This only applies to me in certain areas. And the more that I go back to it and the more that I have conversations about it, like I said, it kind of comes back to really what are my own values and how can I recognize my own self-worth? And no, if you didn't invite me to something fun, you're missing out on my energy added, right?
Totally.
Stay aligned with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Even
I
when
did, again, that sort of contrarian view. I was thinking about it obviously a lot as we've had discussions about raising a teenage daughter where I say hormones are real. And I've said this to you, to which, one of my tennis partners replied to me, well, Ashleigh, at your age, so are yours. Touche, 100%. Yeah, so my poor son, our house is really fun right now. But one situation that I sort of still am trying to apply these principles to, it was a work situation. And I was going on maternity leave. This was before I was in your org, but years before. And my boss set my maternity leave up to cover with what were um what was a narrative that was very different than what I and others understood it to be, meaning sort of potentially over-promising what the situation could or would look like when I returned from my maternity leave. And I think about that example where certainly let him, but also when you're setting women up to compete unnecessarily, I sort of have a problem with that. And um creating a game that need not be played, right? We all have responsibilities and a job to do, but when someone creates a situation that maybe nobody really wants to be in, but then there's infighting unnecessarily, that's something I haven't really been able to rectify with the book's message yet.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm astutely aware of this scenario and the individual in
Yeah.
question. So uh, I think, I don't know, I think the book would probably, or the theory would say, let it go.
Oh, and I had to
You
years
know,
and years
like
ago, but I
that,
was just trying to think of, like I said, a
yeah,
little bit of contrary, give your listeners and your
yeah.
viewers a little bit of
Yeah, I honestly, yeah, the listeners, this individual shouldn't have been in the position that they were in to begin with. Anyway,
yeah,
uh,
but just sort of that's the thing that we're all sort of playing various games throughout our day, and I talk about this a lot with my divorce coaching practice, which is you're thrust into the family law system that you don't necessarily know the rules, and you're fighting for everything that you value, and what you think is right, which may or may not be, but um it's a game you have to play and you got to learn the rules real fast, right? But when people create a game or a negative environment and just sort of like sit back and watch the infighting, that's something that I just haven't been able to wrap my head around with the book's concept
yeah,
yet.
yeah. I think my take on that is you don't have to remain inactive or passive. Let
Right. And that's
let
it. I
them
came back and
let
I
them as
continued to do my
like.
job and the other person ended up
Yeah,
leaving,
I
right?
think potentially the let them part is you can't control what they're going to say or do, right? So let it happen, but then let me
Shine.
do X, Y, Z or remove myself from that particular scenario or educate whoever I need to be. And if there's a conflict that arises, then let me just own up to that I don't agree with X, Y, Z, you know.
Right.
Um,
No, thank you
and
for that
that
perspective.
that's okay. You know, it's and again, maybe there's no resolution. I think we're always like, I don't know. I think we're always trying to force ourselves into this resolution, right?
Right.
I
Or
think,
understanding, right? When you
yeah,
could maybe take some action.
yeah. Like it may be an unresolvable situation, and then just saying, owning up to the fact that hey, it's not going to get resolved, and I need to move on, or or move into a different direction, or what have you. So.
Thank you for that. I appreciate you. You're spot on.
Hopefully, I'm doing Mel justice that with my.
No, but that's really good because, like I said, with the parenting, and then
Well,
I
and
think
then,
about
well, the
that
parenting's
particular
one
work
thing, but
situation.
like this work situation, I know what you're talking about because I lived through it with you. And there was no way for you to resolve it because the damage was done by the time you got back. Could you
That's
imagine
right.
like walking into that weird conflict? And I think part of it is like you're trying to pull the pieces back together and they're completely different pieces, and dealing with and I think a lot of I mean, in this particular scenario, I think a lot of women that leave on maternity, but then come back to these environments that are completely, you know,
It
shit
just
on
didn't need to be that way.
shit on by some man who came up with some, different story. I mean, that's what this particular scenario was.
Or it was his potential way of motivating
Yeah,
someone, but
and
it was detrimental for the team in
yeah,
the long run.
done in the worst possible French way. This person
Ding,
was
ding, ding,
French.
ding, ding.
This person was French. So,
I think he still is.
and I love France, so don't like, there's no hate here. It's just like
No,
he,
truly, it was that I
yeah, I
really
think there's a
appreciate that.
potential language barrier and
You're being a little too generous.
uniqueness on how they motivate. I think that it was a couple of factors that played into this. And I also think that he did not like you. So
You think? But
there.
hey,
Anyway, so
but again, that
um,
that goes back to like, I want to be liked and I want to be like, oh,
and honestly, I think when you get a little older, and I think this starts probably, we all run into these work scenarios that don't play out well for us. Like we lose the position, or we're forced into a transition, or what have you. And
or somebody else is creating churn when you're like, just let me do my
yeah,
job.
honestly, you feel the loss, right? Like, if you lose the job or what have you, it like does a number on your own ego and sense of worth, etc. But having gone through a variety of these scenarios, especially older, later in life, they all end up being great,
Yeah.
yeah, to figure out how to find, I don't know, it sounds kind of kitschy, put the rose-colored glasses on and find like the positive bent on it.
And what action you can take. I no, Daniel, I mean, this session right now, this was really healing for me because I have been grappling with this. And you're right, just, you know, I didn't create the game, but what can I do to elevate myself?
Yeah, yeah. And it's one of the strings that's in the book is like how much power we give to a scenario or to a person or to an event, life event
Yeah,
we don't need to,
right.
right? So that's why like the 5 4 3 2 1, we have this way of always wanting to win the debate, and we talk to ourselves or we're talking against whatever, right? And
Yep.
when you realize that you're doing it, taking a deep breath, counting back from 5 and moving your brain into another room, do all the reset things. Because you
Yep.
don't want to feel that way, right? And honestly, they're like that scenario, like we're talking about a scenario that was 15 years ago,
That's right. But
right?
like I said,
Or
I'm
12
I'm
years
thinking
ago.
about it in
You,
terms of
and but it's still somewhere in you. It's an unresolvable scenario, right? So,
I it comes back to for me. I saw just a clip of Gwyneth Paltrow on the world's first podcast with Aaron and Sarah Foster this week. And this clips of this podcast are going viral because Gwyneth sort of shut down, what is this Montecito mommy rift, are all these, what do people really think of Meghan Markle in California? And what are people saying behind her back and the mean Montecito mommies? And Gwyneth Paltrow said something, what I consider extremely valuable, which was she was auditioning for a part years ago. It was between her and another woman. She did not get the part, and she said to her mom, Blythe Danner, I can't believe I didn't get the part. She's not even that good. And her mother said, stop it right there. You do not compare yourself to other women. This is a game we are not playing. The part was not meant for you. What is meant for you will find you. Keep working. And I really, really love that because I do think, yes, 15 years later, I did keep working. And that situation, it certainly like hurt me the way that I was gone and was in a situation where things and my own, deliverables were positioned perhaps in a way that I had no control over. But I did have control when I came back, to your point. How did I build my own network back up? How did I take responsibility for my own work product? Um, but I really, like I said, it sort of just comes back to me where don't create the rift for other people. If you're unhappy in your own life, change it.
Mm,
Don't bring other people down with you.
hmm hmm Yeah, and making sure that we learn whatever lesson was to be learned in that moment, right?
Yeah.
Like,
My whole point is like, just try not to create unnecessary competitions between other people.
hmm 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 Yeah, on the Gwyneth Paltrow, this is the sassy part. She took the video and she's like, I don't know what kind of rift we're having. And wasn't it Gwyneth Paltrow? Meghan
With
Markle
Meghan Markle. Oh
was
yeah,
sitting in
this
her
was
kitchen. Yeah.
yeah. I have a much nicer kitchen. Hers is a
Well, it's
soundstage.
like they did the same thing to Michelle Obama about this whole divorce thing. All like they're like teasing that there's this, and
She's
she
like, stay out of my
just
marriage. And
like literally, that's not even it, right?
right. Did you hear her the other day? Michelle Obama said, I didn't have anything to wear. Does that satisfy you?
Well, no. No, more importantly, she forced her team to make sure she had nothing to wear. You know, like the whole like taken out of context of it is like she made her team not pack her
Right.
so
Yeah.
that she would not cave on something that she was doing for herself. Great,
Yes.
you know? Like, I mean, when you're, hey, I mean, the pressure that you have to be at every event at a moment's notice, and you're
Oh,
an
forget
ex,
about that. And at President Carter's
you're a
funeral.
former, for I shouldn't say ex, but former first lady, right? Like,
Yeah.
like, I think, I think it's very important for people that have super complex lives and, are followed and I mean,
Every smile,
like
smirk.
the earrings, they're like just taken apart by all of this stuff that they need to find where their center is, and if she
Right.
wants to say no to a bunch of public events, fine. We shouldn't, no one should force her to do these things that she doesn't want to do, right?
100%. I do think as a celebrity though, it would be tough for me to let them, with so many different opinions on, did she gain 3 pounds? Did she lose 3 pounds? How did she look on the beach in Mexico? I would
Yeah.
find that noise distracting,
Yeah. 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 And I think it would be very difficult. Part of you would be like, oh, fuck them. And the other part still reads all the comments.
100%.
You know.
Yeah, because you always think, my dad used to say, and I love this, paper never refused ink. They're gonna write whatever they want about you as long as
Yes.
you get some likes and some clicks, right? But with the paper never refused ink, it's still, we're still people that feel and want to be liked.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I
I
look at people like
also,
Mr. Wonderful on television and I'm like, oh, what a jerk. But then I see him with his wife and the softer side and drinking some wine and social media posts, and I'm like, oh, he's human too.
oh, is this when they were across the table?
No, no, no. I'm just like
Oh,
thinking of things popping up and people that I think
oh,
about that are kind of jerks, but then, he probably just wants to be
yeah.
liked, maybe by his wife
Well, it's
too.
like Bill Maher, like, his dinner with Trump and how he's
Yes.
Trump's just like a normal person. And it's more of like he has his own character when he's out. I was like, okay, well, I have to ingest this and think more about it. But, um, yeah, yeah. Or, how many family members do you have that we have all sorts of opinions about and share them with other family members, but we really honestly love them to death?
Of course.
Or friends or what have you. You're like,
Yeah.
you know, like I might have a crazy friend over here that I love to death that I'll do anything for, but she's also crazy and it could be much more simple for her, right?
And I think honestly that does, in summary, kind of come back to the let them. My dear friend Effie says this all the time about herself and also about me. We're not for everyone.
Yeah. What's that quote from Steel Magnolias? If you don't have anything nice to say, sit next to me.
By me. Yes. Yep.
God.
We're not for
Whoa.
everyone.
I'm not. And um fun. Anyway. Well, thank you
I
for the
love you.
time
I
today.
thank you for, helping me process
This
something
is
from 50.
this
Please
is
don't think I carry it around and I think about it every day. Like I was thinking, I was just trying to think of some kind of contrarian topics for,
Oh yeah. I again, my worry for you is please don't consider the source. Consider the source that I almost had 86 out of a nightclub one once. Anyway, that's another story for another podcast. But I will say, this is our postcard to Mel Robbins. Uh, I'm not sure how to invite myself into your life, but I'm gonna try. I've
I
literally
think I have an outlet, so
I
I might.
don't know her at all. I've never met her, only through social media and these books. I feel like I know Mel. I call her Mel.
I
You
know,
know
me too.
Mel.
I
Mel.
said shout out to
I'm just
Mel
like
earlier.
I don't know, she exudes that vibe. I saw her on the Today Show and I was like, "Oh, there's my friend Mel
Yep.
on the Today
Well,
Show."
actually, my best friend, Alexis, lives in Vermont now, the New Yorker, through and through. Moved to Vermont during the pandemic. Um, she and I read, all the same books and giggle about all the same things. And this 5 Second Rule book, when it came out a bunch of years ago, we both really grasped onto this. Like, just take the action. Stop overthinking
Yes.
and act. Here she was, like at some, ladies' cocktail party at somebody's house in Vermont, and in walks Mel Robbins. So she's kind of their friend groups are sort of are on the periphery of each other. Um, but you never know. Maybe we'll go see Alexis and bring over some
I
flowers
mean,
to Mel's
maybe. I mean,
house.
like, I don't know. Like, I would get that weird fangirl stage fright. Like, everything would just go out of my brain. She'd have to be very, like, pull it out of me. I'm like,
She'd let you.
I was like, you know what? I would fly to Boston. I would be on her podcast. I'm not entirely sure what we would talk about or like what kind of use that would be. Like, who am I? I'm just some amateur learner who's
But
got
that's the thing.
you
Daniel, I
know,
say this, like if we have the opportunity to learn every day, we're so blessed. And if we have the
yeah,
opportunity every day to be around people we care about, we're so blessed.
yeah. I don't know. The reason why I bring it up is for whatever reason, Simon Sinek and Maria Shriver did they had a they had a conversation, and I've met Simon Sinek and I love him. He'll never remember me, but my
Same. I've
that
signed contracts to have him speak at
I wrote a
events.
blog about it. Like I
Yep.
literally like that man is like he's
I'm a big
super
fan of
in
his.
on this if anyone is listening to this that does any sort of you do yourself a favor and hire Simon Sinek for sure. And then
Talk about worth it. He's worth
by
it.
extension Maria Shriver now because the conversation that they were having and they're best friends. I don't know. I just I for whatever reason would, you know, again, Maria Shriver is also probably someone that I'd like lose my train of thought. I would have to figure out how to get the celebrity out of the celebrity
Oh,
and
I
have a
couldn't
real
handle her
conversation with
bone
him.
structure. I think being in the same room with her bone structure would overwhelm me.
I
Like
mean,
that lady,
I
she's
mean,
got it going
this
on.
is true about like these people. They're just so intelligent, right? Like in the scope of intelligence being, if you were to wipe it down and shine it up as like what we think intelligence should be, like they just, they sit in it, and
Yeah, but
I applaud them.
I'm gonna take a fangirl moment for you too. And I've seen you work your magic in boardrooms that have impressed, and I admire you so much. So give yourself some great credit there too. You might
I
not
have
be on the
very good
global stage
mentors.
yet, but
What
like
was
I said,
that?
you're learning every day and you're surrounding yourself by people that
Well, and you know what? Do
Your
things
belt.
that make you uncomfortable. Like everything about this podcast I have done has been completely uncomfortable. Me being on video, no, not a thing. Me doing video clips and promoting it, yeah, not a thing either. Like,
And learning about promotion and learning about
all of
what's
this.
relevant in the web and interweb
But once you
sphere.
get past it, it's actually quite fun. You get
Right.
to have really great conversations and, throw it out there and, you know.
Here we are. Well, I
And
thank
have
you.
lighting that makes you red. Like I can't wait for that Mel Robbins, legit like pristine podcast room with great lighting and you know
Yeah, let's manifest it.
makeup. I'm literally going to promote this and tag
Mhm.
her. I'm not sure what we would talk about. So we'll have to figure that out, um but
I think we can come up with a few topics.
I'm definitely sure that she likes conversation and she likes learning and
Here you are.
and sharing. So I think she's, maybe she should be the spokesperson for this
Hashtag on
podcast.
brand.
Anyway,
All right. I love you.
all right. Have a good one.
I'll talk to you
See you
soon.
later.
Bye.
Bye bye.